So hello guys, today I'll be explaining NPSC 2019 mains question paper. So in the first part I'll be explaining for 126 marks from 2 marks eventually to 5 marks, 10 marks and 20 marks, and the next portion for Nagaland will be explained in the next video. So let's get the video started. So the first question is, explain by which legislation India and Pakistan were divided into two independent nations. So India and Pakistan were divided by the Indian Independence Act of 1947, which was implemented in August 15, 1947, which provided for two independent dominions of India and Pakistan with effect from August 15, 1947. So the Indian Independence Act of 1947, which came into effect on August 15, 1947, when India became independent, and at the same time, India was partitioned into India and Pakistan. So this legislation provided for this. Indian constitutional rights were inspired from which historical documents? So Indian constitutional rights were inspired by the England Bill of Rights, where fundamental rights where the constitution derives some of its nature, the United States Bill of Rights, and France Declaration of Rights of Man. So these are the three documents from which Indian constitutional rights were inspired: the England's Bill of Rights, the United States Bill of Rights, and the France Declaration of Rights of Man. Next, question number 3. Who was the legal advisor to the Constitution's drafting committee? So B.N. Rao was the legal advisor, and he was appointed in 1946 when the Constituent Assembly was established. Next, question number 4. Indicate the best example of think tank development strategy. So as for 2 marks, you need to you need to write only 4 points. That is for think tank organization with respect to India. So we can write that Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, Mumbai; National Knowledge Commission, New Delhi; National Center for Cold Chain Development, New Delhi; and Center for Development Studies, Tiruvananthapuram, Kerala. So for 2 marks, you can write this for uh, institutes that are considered think tanks. So next, what is the role of economics in a personal decision? So this is actually a personal question, and you can write from your own point of view. But however, what I've written is that economics play an important role in our personal decisions. From our individual perspective, economics frames many choices which we have to make about work, leisure, consumption, and how much to save. Our lives are also influenced by macroeconomic trends like inflation, interest rate, and economic growth. So economics plays an important role in our personal lives when we think about our daily activities like buying goods, selling our old goods, and by looking at the trends like inflation, interest rate, we can economics play an important role. Banking, so we invest our money when the bank rate is when the interest rate is low, and we also take loan when the interest rate is very low. So these are all the application of economics in our daily life, what we do that defines our life. So it is your personal opinion what you want to write, but here is my answer. Next, question number 6. What causes changes in supply and demand? So the supply and demand of goods is characterized, or it it depends on many factors such as inflation. When there is price rise, when the price is rise but the purchasing power of the currency is low, then it causes huge demand. However, the supply is very less. The demand increases but the supply decreases because there's no goods in the market, although there are huge amount of money. Next, increase in money supply. The increase in money supply also increases inflation, because if people have many goods, if people have many money, they will want to buy many goods. So it will it will cause the reduction in goods, and also demand will increase. Next, increasing population. Having huge many mouths to feed, it it hampers the supply and demand. Increasing population will increase the demand, whereas the supply will be less. And disruptive economic policies by the government. So government policies play an important role in changing the supply and demand. So these are the 4 points for 2 marks you can write. If the question is asked for 5 marks, then you can explain this 4 points with the help of examples like the Great Economic Depression, or the Depression of 1929, or the economic uh, effects of 2008. So these are some of the examples. How many schedules and articles are there in the Indian Constitution? So the Indian Constitution has 12 schedules and there are 448 articles in the Indian Constitution. So this data is derived from Lakshmikant. Next, how does civil society influence public policy? So what are civil society? Civil societies are those that work to promote the interests of the society. Like in Nagaland, if we term it as civil society, there are many civil society that are out and many tribal hosts, many organization that and Naga Mothers Association. These are all civil society. And how do they influence the public policy? So civil society helps in policy making by promoting public dialogue, that is promoting the interests of the public about decisions that affect the lives of the people, and also the environment, and hold government and policy maker accountable to the action. So if any legislation is passed by the government and if it hampers the people in one way or the other, the civil society can request the government or can put pressure on the government to repeal the law because it is not serving the needs or the interest of the public. So in this way, civil society plays an important role in public policy. Next, use of lead-free petrol or diesel is recommended to reduce pollutants emitted by automobile justify. So in petrol, in petrol, if the lead concentration is very high, then when the petrol is inserted into the engine, it 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 causes incomplete combustion. That means the fuel is not completely burned by the engine, and as a result of it, smoke are released in the form of carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrous oxide, etc. So the incomplete combustion of the fuel uh, increases the production of these harmful pollutants, and if the concentration of lead is reduced in petrol, then the production will also reduce. So the use of lead free petrol will help in reducing pollutants. However, it is not totally 100% safe. Use of lead free is recommended because it reduces knocking in engine. Knocking means incomplete combustion of the engine, and it also reduces the emission of unburned hydrocarbon, as I mentioned, CO, NO2, and SO2, etc. And it helps in reducing the air pollution. List some of the list the main objectives of the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. So the Act, Air Pollution Control, Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. What are the main features of this act? So the first feature, for 2 marks, you can write that it is used to prevent air pollution and maintenance of air for future use, and it is also provides with the powers and functions to the board with the matters relating to air pollution, and it also provides penalties for the violation of the act and establishment of a central and state level air testing labs. So these are the 4 provisions under the control air prevention and control of pollution act 1981. So these 4 points you can write: prevention of air pollution, maintenance of air, and it provides power to the board to reduce the with matters relating to air pollution, and it also provides penalties for violation of the act and establishment of air testing lab at center and state. List any two adverse effects of particulate matter on human health. So the question is asking two, that the particulate matter, which are particles that are present in smoke, dust, etc., and how does it affect our human life? It affects the breathing and respiratory it helps it increases the breathing and respiratory symptoms and inflammation and damage to lungs. So these are the two answers you can write. Discuss the economic classification of unemployment. So economics classify in unemployment into many types. That is, first is discuss unemployment, where many people are employed for a particular job. That is, if 5 people are required for a job, however 10 people are employed, so the remaining 5 are extra. So this is called disguised unemployment. Seasonal unemployment, when the season is high, when the reaping sowing season is high, unemployment will be high, and when we wait for the crops to grow, the workers there are jobless. So this is seasonal unemployment. Structural unemployment, that is people not getting the right job for the right qualification, that is a postgraduate teacher, a postgraduate student is working as a peon or a chokidar. And cyclical unemployment, that is it is similar to the seasonal unemployment. And frictional unemployment, that is when people search for better jobs. So this is called frictional unemployment. So these are the four examples, four types of not four, five types of unemployment. Is COVID a social problem? So we know that COVID-19 has affected our lives physically, mentally, psychologically, and also it is a social problem. Because why it is a social problem? Because the idea of social distancing to avoid contact with the virus encourages seclusion, that is we are separated from the family. Stigmatization, that is people accuse us of bringing the virus, and it promotes a new form of untouchability, especially in India. So because COVID-19 is a social problem, people are afraid of contacting this virus, and as a result of it, a form of untouchability is practiced. And people are discriminated on the basis of uh, poor and rich, high and low caste, men and women are enhanced by COVID-19. So these are the social problems caused by COVID. So we can write it as yes, and these are the 4 point. These are some of the points you can mention. For 2 marks, no need to write long. What is individual and institutional racism? So individual racism means promoting racism at an individual level. So individual racism is a prejudicial treatment of an individual based on his membership in an active group. Suppose in a group of people, if there's a person whose color features are different from the rest of the four, and people discriminate him on the basis of his looks, then it is called individual racism. However, institutional racism refers to racism embedded in procedural policies, objectives of large organization against an individual or a group of individuals. So institutional racism means that in promoting racism on a group of people or a single individual by um, through policies, procedures, objectives of large organization, etc. So individual racism is at a person level. In this, institutional racism is practiced by institutions against an individual or a group of individual. That is various policies of the state which promotes racism. How has gender division of professors affected the college education? So this is a very um, open. The question is asking your opinion, so you can write your own for 2 marks. Next, polar zones have cold winter and hot summer. Explain. So polar zones have cold winter and hot summer. Explain. So what the question is asking is why polar zones have cold winter as well as hot summer. So if we take the example of this is the sun, and if this is the axis, so we know that the earth is inclined at an axis of 23.5 degrees Celsius. That's if it is the sun, the sun rays are hitting the earth at a slanted angle. So if the so if this is the sun and this is the angle, so this is the sun and this is the earth, so the sun is hitting the rays of the earth on the north pole more as compared to the south pole. So because of this, the north pole receives sunlight for 6 months, and after the next revolution, uh, the next for the 6 months, the south pole receives the more sunlight as compared to the north pole. So this back and forth change in the direction of the sun rays uh, provides that suppose the north pole receives sunlight for the first 6 months. So during that time, it receives a lot of sun rays. The north pole receives a lot of sun rays. However, the south pole remains in winter, remains cold, and most of the weather is winter there. So this explains why polar zones have cold winter and hot summer for two duration, that is for 6 months consecutively. So polar zones have cold winter and hot summer because of the inclination of the earth at 23.5 degree. The energy intensity of the sunlight is less on one side pole where the other pole is while the other pole it receives more sunlight. So as a result of it, the polar zones have cold summer and cold winter and hot summer uh, alternatively. Next, what is the composition of the earth gases in earth? So in major cases, so the composition is 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, argon is 0.03%, carbon dioxide is 0.04%, and a small traces of helium, neon, methane, hydrogen, water vapor, etc. What is synoptic? What does synoptic weather map shows? So synoptic map shows the various meteorological features across a particular mm, point of time and various symbols which have specified meaning. So a synoptic map is a map which shows the weather condition of a map. Suppose if this is the map of a locality, and you must have seen that in one area it will be shown sunlight like this, and if in some parts it will be shown cloudy, and in some parts it will be shown raining like this. So this types of maps are called synoptic map. So for 2 marks you can explain this. Next, for 5 marks, what do you understand by acid rain and ozone hole? So we have been studying acid rain from class 5 onwards, so we should know that acid rains are those rains that contain sulfuric and nitric acid, and it is very acidic because carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide released in the air by pollutants react with rain to form carbonic, sulfuric, and nitric acid. So when the carbon dioxide that react with water to form sulfuric and carbonic nitric acid, they fall down on the earth's surface and it causes damage to buildings, historical monuments, plants, and animals, etc. And the famous Taj Mahal has been one of the victims of acid rain. That is why the color of the Taj Mahal has changed from white to somewhat brownish white. And what is ozone hole? Ozone hole means the depletion of the ozone layer in the stratosphere. So ozone hole refers to a region in the stratosphere where the concentration of ozone becomes extremely low, and they are formed when ozone depleting substances like chlorofluorocarbon reacts with ozone to form substances which results in depletion of the ozone layer. So ozone hole is a hole or a region in the stratosphere where the concentration of ozone is very less as compared to the other region. This is because the ozone reacts uh, with hydrocarbons such as CFC, that is chlorofluorocarbon, that is refrigerants, and it causes the depletion of ozone. And additional information is that the in order to control this ozone layer, ozone hole, the Montreal Protocol was initiated in Canada, and the Montreal Protocol is related to the ozone layer. Social audit arrangement has mostly been ineffective. Explain. So, social audit arrangement has mostly been effective because they provide no room for punitive action in case of corruption cases. So, social audit means auditing of various social issues, and these are ineffective because they do not cause any punishment if they are caught in corruption cases, and the lack of adequate and administrative and political will in institutionalizing such social audit to deter corruption also mean that they are not independent of the influence of implementing agencies. Some of them continue to face resistance and intimidation and finds it difficult even to access primary records for verification. Also, illiteracy, lack of awareness, capacity building and masses and among the masses have reduced the people's participation in social audit. So if we take the example of Nagaland, ACOT is a good example because they are organizations that they are running for RTA in various departments. So however, they are facing resistance from many departments because the departments are not willing to give them data. So these are a form of social audit, and why this have failed because of the punitive action, because the system is not allowing for punishment to the concerned departments who are responsible for corruptions. So social audits have mostly been ineffective in this way. So for 5 marks you can explain this. What are the elements of good governance? So good governance is a governance in which a government uses the resources for the welfare of the people efficiently and judiciously. So good governance, the elements of good governance, that is what constitutes a good governance. What constitutes a good government is participation, that is people should participate in all in the governance process, rule of law, that everybody is equal before the law, transparency, that is whatever the government is doing, the people should have an idea, should know what it is. Responsiveness, that is the government should respond to queries by the citizens. Consensus oriented, that is asking the opinion of the people by by holding meetings with the stakeholders. Accountability, that is the government should be accountable to the people and should answer whatever the question has been thrown to them. Equity and inclusiveness, that is even the poorest of the poor should be included in governance process. And effectiveness and efficiency, that is the government should be efficient in such a way that there's less wastage and more of work is done. Next, what is the advantage of a market versus a common economy? So this is a economic question which tells us to find a to expand the advantages of a market, that is a laissez-faire policy in or capitalism over a common economy or a socialistic um, principle. So business efficiency, market economy promotes competition among the people, whereas a common economy is an economy in which the government controls all sorts of production, and it gives direction to what should produce and what should not produce, and this reduces the competition, increase productivity. So a market economy increases production because people are motivated to work under competition, whereas in a common economy, since there's no competition, people do not have any motivation. Innovation, as a result of huge competition, the various industries are are inspired to innovate many products which will be helpful and which will help in selling the products. As a result of it, innovation is promoted. However, since since there is no innovation, and since there's no competition, there's no innovation um, practiced. Next, consumer preferences. The market economy depends upon the consumer status. Whatever the consumers demand, the industry should produce. However, in a common economy, the government does not care about the consumers' needs, but rather about what or what they should produce. The government will decide. Freedom of sale. In a market economy, people have full freedom to sell, purchase, and produce in a market. That is, they have the right to produce or practice any business, and thus it encourages laissez-faire. That is, less intervention by the government and more contribution by the people. And while a common economy has strict restriction on the production of goods, as I said above, the government has to control all the means of production. Next, describe electronic waste and list out the sources of e-waste. So what are electronic waste? Is a term used to describe all end products or discarded electronic appliances which include components, consumables, parts, and spares. And it is categorized into 21 types under two broad categories, that is IT and communication related equipment, that is computers, printers, consumer electrical and electronics, that is refrigerators, switchboards, etc. So the sources of e-waste are computers, television, electronic toys, VCR, CD players, fax machines, Xerox machines, electrical and electronic appliances. And additional information is that in India, the E-Waste Management Act 2016 was passed, which provided for extended producer responsibility. That is, the producer of the electrical equipment or electronic products must take care of its post. That is, when the material is damaged, they must be accountable for this. So these are the sources of e-waste. Next, is losing job a social stigma or a losing income? So losing job is both a social stigma as well as a losing income, because in today's context where unemployment is at all-time high, being unemployed provides very difficult situation for the people, and losing a job creates a social stigma on those who are ridiculed by society, as well as the person loses a source of income through which he can earn for his family. So losing job is, in my opinion, both a social stigma as well as a losing income, because after we graduate, people start asking what we are doing. So if we remain jobless, or if we are terminated from a job, it creates a social stigma that we are incapable of doing work, and as a result, and also leads to losing of income, because since we are unemployed, we are unable to generate any type of income and feed our family. So this is both a social stigma as well as a losing income. Next, for 10 marks. So offshore acoustic study help in the development of the concept of sea floor spreading. Explain. So this question was asked for UPSC geography optional question for 10 marks. So to know this, we should know what is all sea floor spreading. So sea floor spreading is a concept in which, if this is the land and this is the ocean, so due to the tectonic activity of the earth, it is believed that the sea wave is that the sea floor is spreading away from each other due to the tectonic activity of the earth at the crust. So sea floor spreading is a process that occurs in mid-ocean ridges where new oceanic crust is formed through volcanic activity and gradually moves away from the ridge. So that means gradually the ridge are moving away. And what is offshore acoustic study? So offshore acoustic study is a scientific technique in which, if this is the ocean floor and if this is the ocean, so in order to study the ocean floor spreading, the device is fitted on the bottom of the ship, and using a transducer, the uh, echo waves, that is sonar waves, are sent from the ship to the bottom of the ocean, and the sound after reflecting back, it is measured by the electronic device. And what how much time, and using this technology we can measure the map of the map we can measure the we can know the terrain or the map of the ocean floor, and we can know why if the sea floor is spreading or not. So this is a very useful technique in studying the um, ocean floor spreading, sea floor spreading. So ocean offshore acoustic study consists of a single beam sonar system. Transducer receiver mounted at the bottom of the ocean generates a single sound pulse. The pulse travels downward through the water, reflects the ocean bottom, and returns to the surface where it is detected by the transducer. The time taken by the sound to travel to the bottom and return helps in mapping the seafloor. This method of seafloor mapping is also called echo sounding. So this is for 10 marks. Next, while virtual currencies offer many opportunity, this also have posed some serious problems discussed. So what are virtual currencies? Virtual currencies are those currencies that, for example, like Bitcoin, Libra, etc. So virtual currencies like Bitcoin, Libra, etc. provide exciting avenues as virtual currencies. That is, they are not controlled by any government but are present in the internet, and these virtual currencies are provided for the service in the internet, and they provide exciting avenues for virtual currencies because they run on blockchain technology, which helps to keep the corruption in check by tracking the flow of funds and transaction. Cryptocurrency or virtual currency can also save money as it is conducted entirely on the internet, and intermediaries like banks, credit cards, payment gateways, which account for 3% of global economic transaction, can be bypassed. It is also safe because it comes with an account address which can be accessed by a public key and a private key. So virtual currencies are helpful because they help to carry out the transaction, leaving aside the intermediary level like credit cards, payment gateways, etc., which account for 3%. It also keeps the corruption in check by by keeping all the transaction of funds, and it also helps in reducing hacking, as it comes with a account address that can be accessed by a public and a private key. Next, what are the disadvantages? Because as there are many advantages of virtual currency, there are also many disadvantages. First of all, the value of Bitcoin is very volatile because since it is a virtual currency, people cannot control the value of this, and as a result, it comes up and down. That is, in 2018, it was noticed that the value of the Bitcoin fell from $20,000 to $3,800, and also it is more vulnerable to criminal activities because people use it to launder money, sponsor terrorism like ISIS, and illegal activities. And also, virtual currency has no central regulator which cannot regulate the supply of cryptocurrency, as it poses a great risk to the financial stability of a country's finance. So, although there are many advantages, similar disadvantages are also found here. Next, so temperate cyclones illustrate the life and cycle of a temperate cyclone and describe the weather associated with it. So temperate cyclones are also called tropical cyclones because they occur on the latitude between 30 to 60 degrees Celsius, 30 and 60 degrees. That is, if this is the Earth. The cyclones that occur near the equator is called tropical cyclone. However, those cyclones that occur at near the south and the north pole is called temperate cyclones or extratropical cyclones. And what is the life cycle of a temperate cyclone? So the extratropical cyclones are storm system emerging in the mid and high latitudes away from the tropics. They are low pressure system and associated with cold fronts, warm fronts, and occultated fronts. These cyclones form along the polar fronts. In the beginning, the front is stationary. In the northern hemisphere, cold wind blows from the north and warm air from the south. When the pressure descends along the front, the cold air moves towards the south and warm air flows towards the north, setting in a motion and clockwise cyclonic circulation. The cyclonic circulation results in a well-built extratropical cyclone with a cold and warm front. And since there are pockets of warm air compressed between the forward and rear cold air, the warm air climbs over the cold air and a series of clouds appear over the sky ahead of the warm front and cause rainfall. The cold front approaches the warm front from behind and pushes the warm air. As an outcome, cumulus clouds develop along the cold front. The extratropical cyclone can originate over land and sea and cover a large area. So, what are the weathers associated with the extratropical cyclone? So, if this is the Earth and if this is the equator, so we know that air winds are blowing from towards the center and away from the center. So when warm winds go from the equator, because the equator is very hot, so warm air will blow from the equator to the north, and as a result, and if this is the north pole, so the north pole is cold, so cold air will blow over the will blow from the north, from the up to the down. So the combination of the hot wind and the cold wind, uh, when they meet at a point due to the Coriolis forces, the meeting point of a that is the junction of a point creates an area where cold wind blows over the uh, hot wind, and hot wind blows over the cold wind. So this results in an anti-clockwise, that is going against the clock, that is going this way. So the cold the cold wind is, so if this is the equator, the cold wind is coming this way and the hot air is coming this way. So as a result, if these two intermix, and it results in formation of a low pressure point, and this causes a cyclonic situation. So this leads to the formation of tropical cyclone, and this extratropical cyclone covers large area, because as compared to tropical cyclones which forms over the ocean, it can also be formed over the land. So the temperate cyclone or the extratropical cyclone moves from west to east, and they can affect a large area, and velocity is comparatively lower, that is, it is not much harmful, and they can be formed in both land and sea, and it can last for a longer period, that is from 15 to 20 days. Next question for 20 marks is: the categorization of balanced and unbalanced polities is nothing but an attempt to vindicate feudal academic theorization of comparative public administration. So any academic theorization cannot and should not be summarily dismissed as feudal. Riggs categorized political system into balanced and unbalanced polities. According to Riggs, any political system has two components, that is political executive and bureaucracy. The political executive consists of elected officials, assemblies, and the political parties, whereas the bureaucrats consist of the bureaucrats from the IAS to the state public service commission and other lower cadres of civil service. A balanced polity is a political system which ensures a healthy balance between the political executive and bureaucracy in policy formulation and administration. In an unbalanced polity, one side, usually the bureaucracy, dominates the system, and vice versa. While it would be unfair to judge a country or its political system based on whether it is balanced or unbalanced. Such categorization would nevertheless help study its characters and working better. Developed countries tend to have a balanced polity, while developing countries tend to have an unbalanced polity. Such a categorization enhances our understanding of a country's polity. While it's important, thus have its own limitation, it would be unfair to call it futile. So, what is the question is trying to say? So, first of all, the question is trying to answer trying to ask what is comparative public administration and why categorization, that is, um, categorizing balanced and unbalanced polity, uh, it it helps it as an attempt to vindicate feudal economic theorization. So what is comparative? First of all, what is comparative public administration? Comparative public administration is a type it is administrative theory, is an administrative system which compares the administration of one country or one system over the another system. That is, before the World War II, many countries were established their own political and administrative system, like USA, France, uh, Canada, etc. So these have different political system. However, and all the people were trying to understand their own system. However, after the Second World War and the end of colonization, the global economy started to come together, and as a result of it, people started to learn more of the administrative systems of the one another. That is, the United States administrative systems was different from the British administrative systems. So the comparative public administration given by given by Frederick, and he stated that in order to know the drawbacks of an administrative system, one must compare it with other. That is, if the administrative system is lacking in some elements, suppose in United States the administrative system is lacking something which the United Kingdom has. So the United States administrative system can copy the UK administrative system. So as a result of it, they can improve the administrative system as well as learn from their mistake, what mistake they've done. Come to the next, what is um, balanced and unbalanced polities. So balanced and unbalanced polity is that, suppose we take an example of Pakistan and India. So Pakistan is also a democratic country and India is also a democratic country, but both have different administrative system. In Pakistan, the military have more control over the bureaucrats, over the political parties, so they cannot function properly, whereas India is a fully democratic country where there is equal participation of people, and because there's imbalance between the bureaucrats and the political party, the Pakistan has an unbalanced political system because they are not able to balance the power between the political party and bureaucrats, whereas India has a fully balanced system because both the bureaucrats as well as political parties work together for the upliftment of the society. So the question is asking that um, that categorization of this two type of system is nothing but to vindicate academic theorization. So it would be unfair to judge each country, but the answer is saying that such categorization enhances our understanding of a country's politics. So it is not wise to categorize each political system, but to understand the administration system of each country and come to a conclusion and learn from mistakes. So balanced and unbalanced polity example is that there are some countries which are unbalanced, that is Pakistan, Mozambique, and other countries uh, that are under civil war, and balanced political system are United States, India, etc. So this is the answer for 20 marks. So with this, the video for first question, first part has come to an end. I hope you all like the video. Please like and subscribe for more videos. Thank you.